Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight we have a special episode. We just got done recording it, and I thought it was so loose, ladies and gentlemen, that we really didn't do any kind of intro.
No formal intro was done.
We just started shooting the shit. I swear to God that it is, and thank God DC was here, because DC, I think, when you see the conversation, DC is just like going back in time. He and Frank know all these same places. That's right. We're talking about Frank Secich
from
the band Blue Ash. So he's going to be here tonight.
Yeah.
And if you know Blue Ash, you hold up some of those the books. Power pop greatness with this record. And that's how I got turned on to it, was DC. And I turned everybody else onto it because of DC. So we have Frank here tonight. We're going to talk to him. We go for about an hour and a half, but we talk about all kinds of things. We talk about the Youngstown area. We talk about Blue Ash in the studio. We talk about Stiv Bators. We talk about the Playboy album from Blue Ash. We talk about all kinds of things. Parties. He's Kem Fowley. And we talk guitars, because, damn it, if I'm doing a show and I've got another guy on here that knows gear, I have to bring it up. So we're talking about all kinds of things, but Frank is an icon, and his life is just amazing. Frank, do you have anything else to add, DC?
I would say, if you're interested in anything related to power pop, Youngstown, Ohio, the life of a musician.
Of power pop.
It really is, when you consider a lot of the bands that got their Raspberries, Blue Ash. I mean,
Ohio is like the power pop capital.
Agreed. We'll see if Schnee will just give us that, or he'll say, adjacent.
Adjacent. So anyway, let's get talking to Frank. And I apologize, I really didn't give him an introduction, because we just started talking right off the bat.
And it just flowed, folks. And there's something in this conversation for everybody, but I think you're going to really find it entertaining. And Grant, you want to do the official introduction?
I was going to say, if you dig the interview that we did with Grand Funk founding member Mark Farner, you'll like this.
Yes, you will. Without further ado, here is Frank Secich. Or Secich.
All right, everybody. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Support Frank. He's got those couple of books out. And there's a comp that's out of Blue Ash. You can go find it. It's in print. He talks a little bit about it. So anyway, we appreciate it. Enjoy the show, and we'll see you later. All right, Frank, here we go.
Talking bands no one talks about. Grant's Rock Warehouse.
Well, this is like rock royalty, DC.
Oh, Grant, you're telling me. Frank, I don't know if Grant informed you, but I am a neighbor of yours, because I grew up in Youngstown, specifically Girard, Ohio, right across from Sharon, and grew up with you guys' music and the general music scene of Youngstown at the time, which we'll get into, but this is a big treat for me. Big Blue Ash fan from way back when, and I've got the
Look at this. He's got the original vinyl.
Nice.
This was purchased with hard-earned paper route money and lawn mowing money. And this is a real treasure. This album should be very proud.
Both Jim Kendzor and I, from Blue Ash, we're both paper boys and snow shovelers.
I hear you. Boy, you learn a lot about life when you have a paper route as a kid.
Yeah. So
people stiffing some poor kid. You see them hiding behind their curtains, but boy, if you don't deliver their Vindicator, they'll let you know about it.
You know what's so funny is I had a TV guide route too, and a grit newspaper.
Oh, Grit. So I remember that.
I had a fortune when I was a kid, because I had Pittsburgh Post-Gazette morning delivery. I had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning before school every day. But I had tons of money to buy records with then. So,
there you go. It's what we had to do. I mean, for me, it was records and comic books.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, if you wanted to fuel your interests in those areas, you had to find some way of getting that cold hard cash because
Oh
that
yeah.
weekly allowance wasn't going to cut it. At least
Yeah.
not for me.
I already can tell this is going to be a fun talk because it's going to go all over the place.
Oh, we may be here for
Frank,
hours.
I hope you like loose discussions because this is going to be loose.
The best kind of interviews I always like it are rambling. Just let it ramble. Let's go. Paul Nelson always taught me that from Mercury Records that signed Blue Ash.
We'll get to that.
And
I don't even know where to start because your pedigree is so. Your life is just amazing. Well, you do have these 2 books out, I must say.
okay.
The late, what was this, 2023?
Yeah.
Not That Way Anymore, which I've got that. And then your first book, Circumstantial Evidence, and I think 2017, am I correct?
That actually came out in 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. But this, you want to read about rock and roll and how it's done and what to do and what not to do. These great books. So, and I want to say, Frank, I see with the intro's been all screwed up, but I do want to mention this. I got turned on to Blue Ash from DC here because he said, Grant, you like power pop? I said, I love power pop. He said, you've got to check out Blue Ash. So I went and found the CD because as far as I know, is everything out of print right now? I bought a used copy off of Discogs.
Yeah, there's No More No Less has been reissued in Europe on color vinyl, and it's in print. Plus, there's the Around Again album is out of print, the CD, but there's 28 songs on an album called Blue Ash Hearts and Arrows out of You Are the Cosmos in Spain, and it's a two-disc set, and it's really nice with an extra EP, bonus EP on it. So.
See, I need that DC.
Yeah. And then how about this one?
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh yeah, that's worth a fortune.
Yeah,
what is? I don't have that.
This has got. This came out on the Not Lame label. And Frank, I don't know if you know this, but I know Bruce Brodeen.
Oh.
And anytime you saw some cartoony artwork associated with Not Lame, like the cartoon dog Townsend, that's all my work.
Oh, that's cool.
But anyway, this has got a collection of never before heard studio recordings from the band. It's a real treasure trove. It's a 2 CD set chock full of stuff you've not heard before if you only have the other proper albums.
Yeah, I licensed that to Bruce, and I only let him make 5,000 copies of it. So there's no more of those. That goes for like 400 pounds in England now.
It's a hot commodity, folks.
Yeah. Now the one that's still available is this one.
Okay.
Blue Ash. It's a double gatefold. This is the one I was telling you about from You Are the Cosmos. An amazing collection here, and you can get that through Get Hip in America, for the Cosmos over in Spain. So that's pretty cool, and that's still in print and going crazy everywhere. So
all right, good
fantastic.
to know, because
I didn't know that graphic design on that gatefold is beautiful.
Yeah,
it's really well done.
The guy who designed it was one of the top comic artists in Spain.
Okay, yeah, you could just tell.
Pictures of us and everything there. And
that's wonderful.
He also did the labels where our faces are on the labels, if you can see that.
Oh, how cool.
That is really cool.
And it's really, really a good set. And it comes with a 7-inch EP, too. And this has a lot of the songs that were on Around Again there, except it has 8 different ones that have never been released before. So it's the first time on vinyl for any of that stuff.
Okay. Hey, Frank, I didn't know how Youngstown centric the conversation was going to get. And since you mentioned the illustrations of you guys on that album cover, I was sitting there looking at your first book and looking at the young Frank here, and I pulled an old Barney Bean. You remember Barney Bean?
Yeah, Barney Bean, Channel 3.
You go, S worked into the face of Frank playing his guitar.
Nice. Barney Bean.
Barney.
Oh, man.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Barney Bean was a legendary kiddie show host in Youngstown, and if it was your birthday, you sent your name into Barney Bean, and he would take your initials and create a cartoon character out of them.
Yeah.
That's part of the show.
See, I'm in Central Ohio. I'm like 20 minutes north of Columbus. We didn't have Barney Bean.
But
That's right.
like I said, this is a big treat for me. Do you want to start it out with just the general Youngstown scene at the time
Sure.
for music? Because I'm astounded in retrospect, and I don't know if you guys considered it at the time, but the level of talent that came out of this region during the early 70s is astounding to me. Such a treasure trove of Youngstown-centric and regional talent. I mean, let's rattle them off with the Youngstown crew first. You've got Blue Ash, you've got Glass Harp, you've got Left End, you've got the Human Beings, you've got Poobah, you've got Law, you've got Biggie Rat, MF Rattlesnake, Menagerie, Brainchild, the infamous Mom's Apple Pie, and I'll throw in Maureen McGovern as you.
Mom's Apple Pie was from the Youngstown
They were
area?
from Warren, which is
From Warren. Okay.
right next.
There were a lot more too. There was a group from Warren called the Holes in the Road.
Oh, you mentioned that in.
Yeah, which for my money, they were the best band that ever came out of Northeast Ohio. And Doug Thomas and Gary McCoy ended up playing with a band called. They did an album with Garth Hudson and
okay.
and the guys from the band, Howlin' Hill Project, with Levon Helm, and it's fantastic. If you ever see that, they did that in about 2001, I think. So you can grip on some of their talent. But then you had the Pied Pipers, who Dennis he was in there before that. Just a tremendous number of bands. A lot of garage bands like Sound Barrier that made records, Next to Kin, and people like that. There were some real Blues Option, a lot of great bands. I mean, you already named about 20 of them there. It just goes on and on.
Yeah.
In Sharon, where I was from, in the summertime of, like, say, 1966, they had teen dances at churches and schools all summer night long, every night of the week. And most of them had 2 nights of the week where bands were going. And that's in a town that just had 26,000 people. Let alone Youngstown was even crazier.
I don't know if any region similarly could rattle off that amount of talent in an area, in a population that size. Didn't think about it at the time. Of course, I was a kid. You guys were doing your thing. That's just the way it was.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, when you think about it, that is an incredible amount of top shelf talent coming out of this Steel City surrounding area, and speaks volumes to the work ethic, because it ain't easy to make that kind of impact. And here we are, these years later, talking about you guys and your cohorts that came through in the late 60s, early 70s.
Like nowadays, it's the antithesis of that, because you had to, get in a band and you had to learn your chops, and you had to play hundreds of times a year and work your way up and do that. Whereas as now it's like a game show kind of a deal, where you go on TV and they try to pick a star by doing that, where you really don't learn your craft. It's a funny situation with things like that. I was just reading where they're trying to they want to make a game show out of people getting U.S. citizenship now. Put illegal aliens on a game show, and whoever does the best will get the prize of the citizenship. I'm sorry. Am I allowed to swear on?
Yeah, you can. This is you can say whatever you want, Frank.
It's fucking ridiculous.
That does sound kind of ridiculous.
It's turned into too, and is pretty much right now.
The music is just sad what's happened.
What music business?
Exactly.
Yeah,
well, there's no infrastructure.
No. Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
I mean, I was thinking, well, this is kind of a tangent, but we used to have Rhino, which would put out things.
Hmm.
And if you look at a lot of those, well, like the two record set that you just showed everybody, that was that's like, what label is that on? And they're like from Spain. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Oh, You Are the Cosmos, after the kind of play on words with
But
the
you know what's
Big
funny?
Star.
yeah.
You used to have all these reissue labels here, Frank. Like this came out on Collector's Choice, which they aren't doing anything anymore.
Yeah.
You've got Rock Candy in the UK. You've got Cherry Red. You've got that company, the company from Spain. It seems like in Europe, it's like a vibrant reissue
Yeah.
campaign. Here, the industry, there is Rhino Records, which I could see them totally putting out something like this.
They put
Rhino is just a shell of what they were.
yeah,
It's just kind of sad.
Rhino put Blue Ash on a couple of things. I Shall Be Unreleased, the songs of Bob Dylan that he never released with That's the Old Fairgrounds, which is a great compilation. And we were also on Poptopia, Power Pop of the 1970s.
Yeah.
I'm going to segue off you into Cherry Red, because
They
put this out, Looking for the Magic 3 CD disc set at Christmas time of 2023. And this was #1 in Amazon for like 6 months on the Power Pop charts. And it has all the usual suspects: Raspberries, Big Star, Paul Collins, everybody, Dwight Twilley. And his song for that. On July 18th, they have a follow-up now coming out. It's the best of the 80s American power pop bands. And it has, it's called I Want to Be a Teen Again. And it has Stiv Bader starts it off with Not That Way Anymore, the song I wrote with him. Mm-hmm. And Club Wow's on there, my old band, David Quentin, Eddie Best, Infidels, Nicky and the Corvettes, Radio City, Paul Collins, Eric Carmen, Big Star, Cheap Trick, Knack, the whole Rick Springfield.
Everybody.
Yeah, so it'll be another three disc set, 67 songs, and a huge booklet. And that's already, they're already advertising that on Cherry Red, but it's going to be available July 18th, I think it's released.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. There you go, get that.
We'll make a note of that.
We'll have to get it.
Every time we do a show, Frank, we have to reach into the old pocketbook.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm going to have to keep a running list of what you're going to talk about, because it's going to cost me a lot of money.
I shut myself off about 2 weeks ago because I was buying too much stuff.
Oh, I think that's true for all of us.
I was even going back and trying to get, my old record collection I had when I was, 14, 15 years old.
Sure.
But I picked up a lot of cool stuff doing that, and finding a lot of things on eBay and stuff, and trading and stuff. So
I do want to ask you about that, because I know when you saw the Beatles, that changed your life, correct? Like it changed a lot of kids' lives.
Yeah, that night was the night I decided to be a musician. Then the next year, my sister was going to college in Cleveland, and she got me a ticket for Bob Dylan on the infamous Electrical Tour in '65, and it was the greatest concert I've ever seen till this day. It was at Cleveland Music Hall, and the band was backing him up. Of course, they were the Hawks then; they didn't call that, but they were just so fantastic. And it was one of the few concerts Dylan ever did. He said on that tour where they didn't get booed. He says the only other ones were Texas and Minneapolis and Cleveland. They didn't get any boos, and he's right on that. There was not one boo that night. Everybody seemed to really get into it, and the sound was just fantastic, because he was one of those guys. Was the first guy that toured with a decent PA system, so they could crank it up. And like when you hear him in London and they're doing it, he's going to play it louder, and they could just crank, and it sounded fantastic. And you hear the Beatles or the Stones, they were singing through the horns at the Cleveland Municipal Stadium, And,
not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
Even on Shea Stadium, they went back in and redid it in the studio, Just made it sound live, but that's not how that would sound on second base.
No, it would be very tinny.
Yeah.
Well, you've all been like, when you're a kid, you go to the swimming pool and they're playing this is what I have burned in my head when I was a kid, or like in high school. The summer, whenever I hear Aldo Nova Fantasy, I always hear it coming through one of those crappy speakers at the pool. Because when that Aldo Nova track was out, Frank, they played that everywhere back in '83.
Yeah, it's funny.
I keep hearing it at the pool through that crappy speaker.
I have a similar memory of that. We would go swimming and ice skating at a place called Buell Park in Sharon, PA. And it's a huge park. It was left by Frank Buell, who was a steel magnate, and during the the golden era of America, and he left all this money forever to have this park. Well, anyway, it's still going on like that. It's still free it has the only free golf course in the world there. You can still play golf free. Anyway, he left this money, and it would have ice skating and pool parties and ice skating all winter, but they would blare the music through that. And I can remember in 1963, the two I remember is Del Shannon, Run Away. They would blast that. And Joe Meek's Telstar.
Oh, there you go.
64, after Christmas in January, toward the end of January, the Beatles started getting real popular in Ray, so they were blasting Beatles there. So those are my memories of that, just blasting through the cold winter night. And like
those songs are the soundtrack of our lives.
Yeah.
I mean, it just forms so many wonderful memories, and it triggers other thoughts and where you were at that time, maybe who your girlfriend was, who your friends were, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like my introduction to Blue Ash was hearing Abracadabra on Youngstown AM radio powerhouse WHOT back in 73. 1330. And it stopped me in my tracks. The sound was like an awesome mix of the Who, power chords, and beat with the melodic and vocal sensibilities of the Beatles. And that was right up young DC's alley. You guys, you had to know you had really something special with that tune. I mean, the whole first album is fantastic, but that tune still resonates, and it just, for someone even hearing it for the first time now, it's so fresh and vibrant, and it's magical.
Abracadabra's
Dare I say, it's magical.
Classic.
But it's funny because we wrote that song in 1971, and we started doing it right away in all our live shows, and everybody loved it. And it was just like such a great dance song.
Yep.
And the guy who owned one of the big record Rendezvous, I can't remember what's down in Pittsburgh, but he used to always tell me that when anybody would come in the shop and wanted a great dance song, he would sell them either Brown Sugar or Abracadabra.
There you go.
Perfect. Like dancing. So, we knew it would be popular, and we knew it would be the single. The funniest thing about that was that the song was always just called Abracadabra. And when it was released about 2 weeks before the album came out, we got the record, and it said, Abracadabra, have you seen her? And we thought, what the hell is have you seen her? But the Suits and Mercury figured that we never say Abracadabra in the song, and people wouldn't know what it is.
Oh.
Parenthetical title onto it, which never existed. Which is funny.
All right. I think
me.
it's okay. It works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good marketing move, because how many times would you have some younger person's parents come into the record store asking for Abracadabra, and they're just, we have no Abracadabra tune in our files, or for sale here. So yeah, good marketing.
Frank, how did you guys? Okay, when did Blue Ash actually form? I mean, when you got together, did you guys like meet and go, well, this is what we want to do? I mean, or was this just what happened when you guys got together? The sound that you guys made, this is just the way it was. I mean, did you have a goal? I mean, you were going, well, we did like the Beatles, and the Beatles are broken up, and
we were very goal oriented. Jim Kendzor and I started the band in June of 1969. We had been in bands since 66 together, off and on. We had little pickup bands, garage bands, and everything. But I had started writing songs in 67 and 68, and I had a stockpile of songs already. And I told Jim, let's write songs together. We'll do cover songs, but I want to do stuff that we loved when we were kids. The Kinks sound like the Kinks or the Who or that. So we started writing a lot of originals like that. We did about half originals from the start too. Even though we were a bar band and played teen dances, we stuck to doing the half originals. And then we did, the Hollies covers or the Stones or Who or the Kinks, Yardbirds and stuff like that. But that's how we started out. We wanted to be a band like that, but we just kept writing more and more. And after the first year, we got Bill Bartlett in the band. Our first guitarist quit. And he was a great songwriter. So he and I just hit it off, and we just started slamming them out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So after you saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, how long before you took your paper out money and bought a guitar? I'm assuming you bought. That's what happened.
No, what happened?
How did you get your first guitar, and how did that all?
Okay,
how,
right after that, my Uncle Jack was a country and westerns. He used to have a show on, you'll remember this, WKBN in Youngstown. He was Cowboy Jack in the 1930s and in the early 40s. And he gave me an old guitar, a Stella that he had. So I had that when the Beatles came out. But then I got harmonicas right away. And, so I learned all the Beatles and Stones songs on the harmonica, early 64. And then my mom bought me a Harmony Monterey guitar. It was like $70 or something like that. And that was a fabulous guitar for me to learn on. So that's how I started. I got that same year.
And then why did you end up switching to bass? Because the other guys were better players. That's a lot of what happens, but I don't know.
No, what happened was we had another friend of ours named Chuck Borowski. He passed away in the late 70s, but he was going to play bass. He had a Framus bass, and we'd been in bands with him. And right as we were starting Blue Ash, we were going to do the first practice. He decided to quit. He didn't really want to be in a band or anything. So I just took over on bass, and we became bass. Instead of having two guitars, I was originally the rhythm guitarist. So instead of a 5-piece Blue Ash, it was 4-piece then.
Gotcha. Well, bass is good enough for Paul McCartney, and listen to your bass parts, you sound just fine.
You can always tell the guy.
Go ahead. Sorry.
We were guitar players and went over and took over a bass. They all play the same way with all the melodic loops on it and everything.
So did you go get a bass, or did you play the Framus?
No, I played the Framus for a while. Then I bought a Fender Telecaster bass.
Okay.
And then I bought Gibson EB3. Yeah, so that was
right.
Yeah.
I've got one of those. This is going to be geeky, Daryl, for a minute. I've got one of those reissue Fender Telecaster basses.
Yeah.
With the humbucker in the neck.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's had chunky necks though, Frank. Pretty chunky necks.
Yeah, I used it a couple of times during the Debbie Poet sessions, because for certain songs it fits real well with it. It has that plonky thing.
Does it have the humbucker in the neck? Is that the one you've got, or you've got the regular old? Yeah, you're right. Like the old P bass style.
Yeah, the old one. Yeah. And they were a little harder to play than say a precision bass, but. I liked it. I liked it. I used also a Mosrite bass when I Mother Goose and Blue Ash. Last half of Blue Ash, I used that. Then I had a Hofner Beatle
bass,
and I had a Hofner Club model, which is a nice bass too. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I could talk guitars all night. You've had a lot of great stuff, but you still kept the Telecaster. Did you keep the other ones, or did you get rid of them?
The one they had over at Amprion Recorder in Youngstown, when the Debbie Poets were playing. Pete Trevere owns like 50 guitars, and he had a real cool old Fender Telecaster that came in. It was just like the one I had, probably
just like the one. Yeah. It was probably it.
Yeah, handed down through the ages. Yeah.
My God, this looks familiar.
Mm-hmm.
All right, DC. We're done talking gear. I couldn't help it, but. With a pedigree like Frank, we could just talk guitars probably for hours.
Well, absolutely. I think it just seemed like that Beatles appearance on the Ed Sullivan show, the next day, everybody was wanting to play the guitar or drums, and everybody was taking whatever meager hair they had and trying to fashion it in a Beatles-like style the best we could.
Oh, yeah.
The impact was incredible. Just overnight, boom.
You'll love this story that goes with that. When the Beatles played on the Ed Sullivan show the first time, all the guitar companies were trying to get them to use their stuff. Fender tried to get up there. They couldn't get in to the Plaza Hotel. Gibson tried. But the guy from Rickenbacker got in, and he brought that up, and he brought the 12-string for George, and he brought Lennon another one, too, because Lennon was already using the Rickenbacker, of course. But can you imagine how smart of a move that was for that?
Oh, yeah.
Rickenbacker guitars just went unbelievable after that night,
Yeah.
And then
I can't remember, but when did Paul get his 4001?
he got that then.
Was it that same night? Yeah.
The same guy. He just never used it till he started using it on Rubber Soul and Revolver and stuff. But
right.
because he always used the other one. But that's when they got those. And the really cool 12-string that George is using in Hard Day's Night, he started using it all the time then too. And when he came over here to visit his sister a couple months before they were on, he went to Illinois to visit his sister in St. Louis, and he bought one of those cheaper Rickenbacker one pickup.
I think it was either a 425 or
I can't remember what
I think it's a 425 because they later in the later 70s changed it to being a 420. It's a 425. I've got one of those, but it's they had like a budget model called Electro.
Okay. Yeah.
There was a guy on Facebook Marketplace selling one, and I said, Carol, I have to go buy this. It's a Rickenbacker. It's got a different logo thing, but it's a 420, and it's just same thing, same guitar. The one pickup Rickenbacker 420. Yeah, well, I've got one.
So, a lot of inside baseball here,
Frank.
folks.
Frank, I have it bad. Don't tell anybody. I got it bad. I love all that stuff. Rickenbackers. Oh, I could talk Rickenbacker all day.
I'll do a little more. I know you guys will probably want to get on other stuff, but I had it.
No, we love all this stuff.
You know why I brought Frank in here, DC, to talk guitars. Go ahead, Frank. I'm ready.
I had a 66 Rickenbacker that I played with when I was with Stiv Bators. It's Eddie Best is carrying it on the cover of It's Cold Outside. And it had
Is it this?
Yeah, no, that's
an older one. Doesn't that have gold?
Yeah, that's a 6.
Yeah.
It's let me see. I have a copy of it here. I'll show it to you while I get these things out.
I had a 66 Rickenbacker 36012 for a long time.
It's this one that Eddie is playing. I'm in the middle, and Eddie's got the other.
He's got the other one. Okay.
It was a 66, but it was made for the European market. Had humbucking pickups on it because they wanted to get into the blues thing. It never became a big seller with Rickenbacker because people didn't like it. They made very.
It didn't sound like a Rickenbacker. Right?
No, it sounded like a Gibson.
Right.
And so I a friend of mine, right after I was married, my wife wanted to, for first anniversary, buy me something nice. She goes, "What do you want?" I said, "I want a Rickenbacker." So she got a musician friend of mine. He found this in Pittsburgh in a store. He picked it up and then she paid him for it. Anyway, great sounding guitar. And Jimmy Zero used to play it. It just howled with those pickups. It got stolen on stage. We used it as a backup when I was at Dead Voice and Stiv in Toronto, and I've never seen it again since. I'm hopefully
there's that road crew you hired out of Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the likely suspects right there.
Yeah. I hope it shows up someday. Bill Wyman's Vox 66 bass just turned up in New Zealand, and McCartney's original Hofner turned up too a few years ago.
Oh yeah, the cavern bass.
Yeah,
isn't that crazy? Did you ever see the video where Paul's got it like he's going to play it? He just got it all, they rebuilt it. Hofner probably worked on it, but it's just incredible.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
The fact that thing, someone had to have it. It was up in someone's attic.
Yeah, it's
but
nuts.
Man, I bet he was so glad to get that back though. That's iconic. I mean, that's the cavern bass, Frank.
Yeah.
So Frank, you mentioned Stiv, and I wanted to make sure I remembered this story and got your input and whatnot. You say you were in the early version of the band Mother Goose?
Yes, I was one.
Were you guys putting on the same kind of show that Stiv did once he joined the band? Because I got a story about that.
No, Stiv was. I'm trying to get this.
That's all right. Yeah.
Stiv. When he was in the Mother Goose, he was technically probably my replacement because I quit Mother Goose to start Blue Ash, and they got Stiv and a few other people, and then they became like a show band, like an Alice Cooper thing.
Oh, Frank, you're reading my mind and my notes here. I'll tell you what I said. That Mother Goose Band was something to behold, and until I read your book, that was pressed in the back of my mind that school dance at my high school after a game with
Yeah.
Mother Goose. And I guarantee you, nobody from the principal, the assistant principal, any teacher, or even the lunch lady knew what they had signed on to with that
Oh, yeah.
band Mother Goose. And
They-
like you said, it was like Alice Cooper mixed with Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah,
It was
it, it, it was crazy because they only played every place once. They would never hire
That
them.
was it. They never could get hired again.
Yeah,
That's exactly what happened at my high school, because come Monday morning, the skinny was like, I forget what club was sponsoring the dance, but there was hell to pay because Mother Goose comes out and there's this big parade with all these band members along with the rock band. If I remember right, there was a giant paper mache goose with somebody in it. There were a couple of scantily clad young ladies with frilly things dancing about, and we just stood there with our mouths open. It was astounding.
and some of the guys would wear the Sharon High School band uniforms, orange and
Yes.
Did Mother Goose put out anything on?
no,
Never put out anything.
never, no. So it was just like, and during that time, of course I was friends with Stiv since like 1967, but we had Mother Goose open up for us at least 30 times because they had hard times getting gigs, you know.
Oh yeah, after once.
Probably.
Blue Ashy had a built-in crowd and everything, so we got them a lot of exposure. Our manager Jeff used to like Stiv a lot, and we always got him a lot of gigs like that. He lived on Illinois Avenue in Girard.
In Girard, exactly. I was telling Grant, I said, I'm positive. Steve, I think his name was Steve, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said, he's from my hometown. I'm almost positive of that.
Now they're selling. His parents died a few years ago, and they're selling the house now. So everybody's trying to, looking into that to buy.
Oh.
It'd be great if somebody bought it, made a recording studio there, but I don't think you could zone it in that residential area.
It's purely
Probably
residential.
not.
Yeah, that when I read that in your book and you mentioned Mother Goose, it just brought that evening front and center to me. And I thought, oh my God, I haven't thought about that in decades. But what a show! I mean, we just stood there with our mouths open.
Did you guys see the movie about Stiv? No Compromise, No Regrets?
I haven't
No,
seen
I
it.
haven't.
Eddie Best talks about the Mother Goose Band coming to their high school and everything that went on. A lot of stuff you've been had. It's pretty funny. If you,
I got to check that out because believe me, we were just astounded by what was taking place.
time and everything like that. If you have that, you can watch it for free. It's called Stiv, No Compromise, No Regrets.
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down. I'm writing everything down. Well, actually, I'm recording.
You guys
it down.
had a lot of support from, as I mentioned before, WHOT, and I assume you guys had pretty good relationships with all the disc jockeys there. Do you have any specific reflections on Boots Bell?
Boots was our hero. He really put Blue Ash on the map. Boots and Johnny Kay and Dick Thompson. Boots just loved the band. Because he loved we put on a good show and we were really professional. Like I said, we were a different band. We would do a 3-set night at a teen place. We would change clothes every set and have a different thing. And Boots was one of those guys, here they are, Blue Ash, the great stage show band. And as soon as I say your name, Blue Ash, he goes, you guys hit it. And we were like that. We would just hit it. We were real professional. So Boots loved us. So anyway, we'd play at these places like the Bug Out and Transfer, and we'd get 1,000 kids out there and everything. And Boots would be on the Monday, come on the radio. You got to come out and see these guys. They're terrific. So we started drawing. People wanted to book us and drawing, crowds everywhere. So Boots was our champion. They were working on Bill Sheets and Boots' son, but Chris passed away. They were working on a documentary with Boots, and Jim Kendzor and I from Blue Ash did a interviews for it and everything. So I don't know how that's coming along too, but that should be pretty cool. It was called Bigger Than Life, I think the name.
And he truly was, Frank. I mean, of course I listened to him on the radio years and years, and what a personality and a presence he had on air. But I also had him for an advertising class at Youngstown State.
I-
And he was a very interesting guy, and he wasn't the upbeat, yes, indeedy doody daddy guy that he was on the radio.
Different.
I mean, I believe what you said in that he respected and he appreciated people doing things in a creative and timely manner and being professional. And even as being a student in his class, he didn't put up with any crap.
well, he was
Not at all.
he was a classic guy. I don't know if you know his background story. He was in the Korean War.
Mm-hmm.
When the Chinese line invaded and came in north, they overwhelmed him, and he was in hand-to-hand combat with the Chinese with bayonets and everything. That's how he got the gimp in the leg. He
had a cane that he walked with.
You know, when the million Chinese came across the border, Bruce had a wild ass life,
Yeah, he was quite the guy.
Yeah.
Very entertaining, but no nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time for fun, and there was a time for, you need to get all your ducks in a row here and do it right. But, and you also mentioned some of the venues. Now, as a little kid, the club, the Freak Out, had a real fascination for me. I'd be in my parents' car driving down 422, and I'd look at that Uncle Samish top hat there off the side of the road, and I'm thinking, there's some cool stuff going on there. I ain't old enough to experience it, but one day
something's going on.
Something cool's going on there.
The one in McKinley Heights on 422 burnt down. Blue Ash, before it was Blue Ash, Mother Goose did a audition there for Jeff Jones, and we got hired. We were going to play at the old Freak Out. But we ended up getting a summer residency at the Electric Zoo in Geneva on the lake. So we played all summer in Geneva. And then after that, so we never played the old Freak Out. Then it burned down. Burned down or known to have been burned down. And then they moved it to Midlothian in Youngstown. Hey, nice cat.
Yeah, Frank, this is known as my poor friend here. He's Dementia Cat.
There you go.
He's got some health issues, but he's appeared on every episode of Grant's Rock Warehouse that I have.
Oh, that's great.
He's kind of
he always comes by.
Yeah, he always comes by.
Oh, what's his name?
Herbie.
Okay.
Herbie.
Yeah.
But
we just call him Dementia Cat.
Dementia Cat. But some of those venues back in the day, as I'm reading your book, the memories that it brought back to me, the bands, the venues, the local scene as far as, the radio stations in Youngstown, up in Cleveland. You mentioned all these, Johnny Kaye, Dick Thompson. They really got behind you guys, the local bands like you guys in Glass Harp, Left End. The local guys really played a big part, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, really. They were unbelievable. And of course, you get on there and advertise it on it. And then, of course, playing the records and everything, which was great because they were just really, really, really good at pumping that stuff out. Yeah.
Champion Roll Arena, Idora Park, WHOT Day.
Yeah.
And I also had forgotten, Frank, about the Green Man. Now, we had heard about this guy in Girard, and I had completely forgotten about him until I read your book. So, folks, I haven't read the second one yet, but I finished this one. Very entertaining read. They're shorter chapters, easy to digest, and very entertaining. If you want to kind of get a feel for the music scene and all that Frank's been involved in his illustrious career, it's a great read. So I highly recommend
100%.
It's available all over the world too. Amazon all over the world. Barnes and Noble, Get Hip has it. Even Walmart and places like Target have it. You can order through there. So
I think Frank, you've made DC's day, because this is who else could I have had on this show other than DC? This is Frank. His whole life.
Frank, this is very exciting to me.
Yeah.
And of Grant's Rock House, I've had a chance to meet a couple of my heroes. We got Frank with Blue Ash. We got to interview Mark Farner of Grand Funk Railroad. So this is a tremendous honor for me. And like I say, 1963, folks, when it was real hard to come by for young DC, he went out and purchased this album. Still have it to this day.
Oh, great. The Mercury label, everything good.
You are just hardcore, DC.
Yeah.
You are just hardcore.
When I was reading your book, I was also interested in your story about how you guys decided on the name Blue Ash.
Yeah.
But here's another way we connect. I lived in Cincinnati most of my adult life. Didn't know that, but I always thought, cool, this suburb of Cincinnati is named after one of my favorite bands from back in the day. And then I'd read your story in your book, how you're traveling down 71 in Ohio and say, we're tired of trying to come up with a band name. The next sign we see, that's our band name. There it is.
We had been
It's a good name, though.
Band since we left Youngstown. So you figure we were on the road probably 5 hours and had 1,000 names. But then I said, Jim, that's it. We're just going to name the band after the next sign. He goes, Blue Ash. That was the band name.
That is an awesome name.
Yeah.
What a serendipitous moment. That's great.
Yeah.
So I want to ask real quick, when you guys went into the studio, had you had any other previous studio experience prior to going in and recording that Blue Ash album? Had you done 45s or anything? Or?
No. What we did is in 1970, Bob Mack took us to, he's the guy that discovered Tommy James and the Shondells. Mm-hmm. He was a Pittsburgh DJ, and they put that record out, Hanky Panky, in 63, and he started playing it in 66 and sold like 50,000 of them, printed it up, and got a hold of Tommy James, who was working at a gas station or somewhere in Michigan. Because you better get your band back together. You've got a hit thing, and then took it to New York, got it on Roulette Records, and it was #1 hit, So Bob, we used to play a lot of his clubs in Pittsburgh, and he took us to Sigma Sound in 1970, and he had a folk singer from Pittsburgh write a song about Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix, who had just died like a couple weeks before the last one died. And we went in there and did that and did 2 other songs. And that was our first thing. And he tried to get it signed. It's a great record. It never got released, but they just found the actual tapes in Philadelphia at Drexel University.
Wow.
Really? They're sending them up to us, and we're going to remix them. There's a Blue Ash album coming out. Another one of rarities from Peppermint called Didn't Mr. Billy's, and those 3 songs will be on it too. So
they actually found the session tape, so you can actually mix it.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So we can go in and remix them again.
So that is great news.
I had one of them on an acetate that was really good, but they sound fantastic. We sound like the Moody Blues or something.
My God.
Amazing. That's amazing.
What's the, when do you think that this will be happening?
This should be out by the end of summer, what I'm hearing. Yeah. So as soon as they get that's the last thing. They're getting the tapes shipped up from Drexel University. Then Jim and I are going to go over with Peppermint and mix them with them. So that'll be the big thing coming out by Christmas.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we got Frank. If you want to, we'd love to have you back on when you get closer to release time on that project. If you want to join us.
Yeah, I would love to.
Because we've turned on a lot of people. Because DC turning me on to Blue. Because I do listening parties.
Yeah.
I play Blue Ash quite a bit, don't I?
Yeah.
Trying to turn people onto it. We have turned on a lot of people onto it. So.
We've had some really cool people, record our stuff. Like the Records did Abracadabra, and they had a huge hit in 1979 with Starry Eyes.
Well, that Records album.
Yeah.
Those are great records.
Yeah.
The Records are great records.
Played that number 2 at the midnight special. And then, Billy Joe Armstrong recorded Not That Way Anymore. That's the lead-off thing on the new Cherry Red Records compilation. So that was pretty cool. He did that in like 2020 during the pandemic. So.
Hey, Frank, here's another story that reading your book brought back something I had forgotten these many years. Was that concert you say is one of the best shows you guys did at Packard Music Hall when you shared the stage with the Raspberries?
Yes.
A girl from my high school went to that show, and she was telling me about it, and she echoed what you wrote about it just being a phenomenal show. And she and her boyfriend, they went to see you guys, and she also said, yeah, the Raspberries were really good too.
That's funny, yeah.
He
What
had
did
the
you what did
expression
you
that
think
you
of
did.
oh, what did you think of the Raspberries? Frank?
I liked a lot of the stuff that they did. I liked their singles. I thought their albums were kind of weak. Eric was a great songwriter, but sometimes in a band, you get too much democracy going on to give everybody like writers credit. That should not really be writing the songs,
Mm-hmm.
Not saying anything bad against guys' songs. They were all decent songwriters, but Eric's stuff just stood out a little bit
Well,
more.
when you listen to those records,
Yeah.
I mean, there's one person on on those albums that sticks out above.
His stuff just soars.
Yeah.
Like you say, Frank, not that the other guys didn't bring good material to the table, but when you take a look
Wally was a great.
Wally,
I have no issues with his material.
Yeah, I have no issues with Wally. I like the guys personally. I played different gigs.
But Eric Carmen, you have to admit, he was really quite a talent.
See, I saw them play when it was Cyrus Erie and this 1968 up in Cleveland. Went to a couple shows there. They opened up for the Nas and a few other people.
Amazing.
Cyrus Erie was better than the Raspberries ever were live. Cyrus Erie was one of the great bands of all time, but they did mostly covers. I mean, they did The Who and Moody Blue.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they did put out a single, like I think on Epic or anything, or something. Maybe you can hear it like on YouTube. Someone's digitized.
Yeah, get the message. That was the single.
Get the message.
Sparrow. Yeah, the good stuff. And they were a fantastic band. But like I said, I loved Eric's stuff, but the albums are hard to listen to. I mean, I have all the albums and I'll listen to them, and it's just not in the same league,
Mm-hmm. What's really great really stands above everything else,
Mm-hmm.
The singles were great.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Frank, you mentioned, how many thousand, you did like 1,400 shows as Blue Ash. And I'm going to reference a story from your book and how it ties into the Grant's Rock Warehouse ethos.
Okay.
I'd like to know how this is going to tie in.
Hey, Frank, we do a show here sometimes, and it's called Wall Punchers.
Oh no.
And it's a show about songs. Everybody on the panel picks a few of them. Songs we hate so much that we could literally punch a wall if we hear them.
Yeah.
And one of my top personal wall punchers is a song that's referenced in your book called Hot Rod Lincoln by Commander Cody and his Lost Planet Airmen.
Yeah.
Folks, I always imagine the fan of such a song as just kind of a mouth-breathing goofball, redneck hillbilly. And then my inclinations were proven by the only time in the thousands of Blue Ash concert performances where you guys got booed. It was their audience.
Yeah.
What kind of imbeciles would boo Blue Ash?
They were
on.
booing us and throwing stuff at us, and they were throwing bottles. And they threw like beer bottles. And this place held it was supposedly the largest nightclub in the eastern United States, the Joint in the Woods. And I used to get Bruce Springsteen, and the Raspberries played there a lot too. We were always it was a national band's stop on tours, But anyway, Jim pulled one right out of the air and caught it in his hand and threw it right back in the audience with all his might. He goes, "You keep throwing them." He goes, "We're going to keep throwing them right back at you." And it stopped. And then they kind of started liking us,
The message was sent.
I mean, it wasn't usually a rough crowd though, was it?
No, what happened since they brought national acts in all the time, like we would play there for a week and we'd open up for Marshall Tucker one night, as Nazareth the next night, Commander and Cody the next night, whoever it was, there were national acts. So they would bring in a lot of their people too. So when the Commander Cody people came in, it was all bikers and rednecks,
I played those back in the 80s when I played in a band. We used to play regularly in a biker bar in Bell Fountain, Ohio, called the 151 Club. And women would fight. They would throw beer bottles across the room. This one woman hit some other woman in the head with a beer bottle.
Jeez. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
151 Club's no longer in beautiful Bell Fountain, Ohio.
Soccer
but
for you
it was
folks.
kind of a rough. It was kind of rough.
Yeah,
But I'll tell you, Frank, it made it for an interesting evening.
yeah, I bet. I've played many a places like that. Our thing was if Blue Ash didn't like the place, and there are
Yeah.
very few places we didn't like, but if we didn't, we would just start with our shenanigans. You know, we would do "Please Release Me" for 30 minutes by Engelbert, and we would drive everybody nuts.
Oh, I love it.
Get us out of here.
Yeah,
And we did the monkey thing. We would do Pipeline, Woolly Bully. We would just Roses Are Red by
Bobby Vinton. There you go.
Break into that and drive people crazy because
But you probably sounded okay doing it, right? You probably
yeah. We did.
The people are just going, "What the hell are they doing?"
Yeah, what the hell is this?
That was probably the best times.
We'll talk about your first single from the first album, Abracadabra, but the second single, I remember at time, did very well and was well received in some cities across the states, including my beloved Cincinnati.
It was a hit in Cincinnati. It sold like 5,000 copies. I remember getting the reports where it wasn't selling anywhere else, but in Cincinnati, it sold like 5,000 copies, and in Boston too. But then it wasn't picked up anywhere else. But in Cincinnati, it was a big hit.
Yeah, and I also remember you saying that Rod Stewart got a copy of the album, and when they asked his impressions, that song in particular resonated with him.
That was really a good compliment. It's one of my favorite compliments that I've ever had.
That's amazing.
Well, you guys have had compliments from some real heavy hitters. John Lennon, for one.
Yeah.
I understand he loved your debut album and had many positive things to say.
Yeah, crazy stuff like that. It's nuts when you hear stuff like that. I remember there's a song I wrote. It was the Blue Ash song, "A Million Miles Away," and Stiv had recorded it. And he played it for Keith Richards, and Keith goes, "That has a really good groove." He goes, "That's a really good song." And when you get compliments from people like that, it's like, wow, this is pretty crazy.
It's crazy because it's a full circle moment. You as a youngster watched the Beatles on Sullivan, and they influenced you to do this thing to begin with. You get there, and then the band that got you on this path compliments you that way. That is wild.
It was funny because when I was with Stiv, I had met Jeff Beck quite a few times. Even before I was in Blue Ash, I met him when the Jeff Beck band played Cyrus Erie opened for me at Manor Hall of Blue in '68. But I had met him in England in '72. And then when Stiv and I were out in LA, we got to be pretty good friends with us. He even invited us to a party one time. We played pool with him at Barney's Beanery. But there's another guy like that just loves it. He goes, I love this stuff. It reminds me of the old days in London and stuff like that. But then there was a guy who was a complete hero for all of us here, and it was just amazing, What a great guy.
Man, that is incredible.
The people you met were not only in the music industry. You met actresses, John Belushi, comedians. What a life you've led, sir.
Yeah, fun stuff. Susan Sarandon. One of my favorites that we met was Meredith Baxter Burney. Remember her?
Meredith. She was the mom on Family Time.
Yeah, and she was just absolutely beautiful. And we playing Packard Music Hall, and they were doing Kenley Players. Freddie Shigo.
Oh yeah.
Her and her husband David Burney. So Jeff Jones and our manager, we had to go over there, sign some contracts or something, and we're backstage with John Kenley, and they were there too, and she started talking. "You guys are in a band?" Yeah. And Jeff brought out an album. He gave her an album. She goes, "Oh, that's real cool." She goes, "What are you guys doing tonight? You want to go out to a club somewhere?" And he got kind of didn't want to go out.
Other plans.
But she was ready to go out and party and hang out. I thought she was a great girl. Yeah. And she was breathtakingly, stunningly beautiful in person too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the good old Kenley Players.
Yeah.
There's another blast from the past.
Yeah, really.
Grant, are you familiar with that? Did you hear of the Kenley Players? It was summer stock.
No, you guys are talking a language I don't know.
It would stop in Warren, I think Dayton and Cincinnati, I don't know, or Columbus, and it was a summer stock thing, and you'd get actors and actresses that were pretty hot at the time doing summer stock.
Yeah, a lot of people did that.
Well, they used to have something in German Village where they would do Shakespeare in the park. That's all I know of.
I think they sold out every performance of Kenley Players they ever had, and that thing held like 2,500 people. You know,
it was very popular back in the day, and they brought in, whoever was hot at the time was what Juliet Prowse and Martin Milner, Kent McCord, Henry Winkler, all those type of folks in the mid '70s.
Oh yeah,
crazy. What do I want to ask? I hate to even bring it up, but I'm kind of fascinated by it. That Playboy album, the second album, which was a mess. How did that deal come about? Because Blue Ash had been playing still, correct?
Yes, and we got dropped by Mercury in.
Were you dropped, or did they just sign you like to a one record deal?
Yeah, we had a record deal, and we had to sell 25,000 copies to get a second album.
Oh.
We sold 19,005 copies.
Oh.
And then they were going to drop us, but then they decided to record another album, so we recorded more stuff at Peppermint, and then they decided to give us one more single to see the Suits at that. Now, meanwhile, Paul Nelson, Bud Scopp, and different guys at the company that loved us, the A&R guys, were really fighting hard for us. But the Suits at Mercury and the promotion really didn't know how to handle us because we were a different kind of thing.
Think about it. I'm just going to use let's look at Big Star, that whole era. Big Star loved the Beatles. They basically tried to continue on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Blue Ash. I mean, it really.
There's two bands that sold about just the same amount of albums. That's all they ever sold.
I have a story. When I was a little kid, there was a store called Bargain City in Marion, Ohio.
Okay.
And they had a cutout bed. And now I was a kid that, you had like a little record player. And I was record crazy, Frank. Record crazy. Even when I was like 5, okay? Yeah. And I remember when I was a little kid, I went through the records at Bargain City, okay? And they had like 50 Cent records. They had the second Big Star album.
Wow.
In the cutout section. I didn't know who it was, but when I saw that record later, I said, oh my God. They had like a stack of them like this.
Yeah.
For 50 cents.
Yeah.
If you would have bought those and then sold them later, you could probably made a couple $100 on each record, sealed, at least. But I remember seeing that back in the day in the cutout bins.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But what a great stuff. If we didn't have REM, we might not even know Big Star. Because if it went for REM, digging them back out. But still, you guys were contemporaries around the same time doing similar type of things,
Yeah, Paul Nelson introduced us to Big Star. We at Max's Kansas City. We got to hang out with them one night, me and Jim Kendzor. So that was a lot of fun seeing those guys. Yeah, that was fun. But yeah.
But that whole Playboy album, how did that deal come about? I'm just curious.
Okay,
just so everybody knows. Because did any of that stuff, because I know I should have all this stuff.
Yeah.
But did any of I just hit some software button. I didn't want to. Any of that, I know it was kind of a mess, but did any of that Playboy stuff ever come out on any comps or anything?
No. And what happened was after we were dropped by Mercury, Columbia wanted to sign us, and it went through all they sent us up there, and it fell through RCA, and then Emperor Records with Nat Weiss, who was the Beatles lawyer. John and Paul actually stayed at his apartment the week they were on the Tonight Show from Apple. Anyway, Nat was a great guy, and then he couldn't do it for different financial reasons, so we were just getting fed up with this. We had a friend, Steve Friedman, who used to work at Peppermint and helped us get in there with, doing our demos and how we got signed to Mercury. So we signed a production contract with him, and we went to Florida and recorded 4 songs at Criteria. And he got a singles deal with Playboy. He took it out to the West Coast, and it became a regional hit all over the South and Michigan and Pennsylvania and Ohio. Hundreds of stations were on it, so it started taking off. So they gave us an album deal. So they flew us out to LA in August of '77, and we finished the album in at Village Recorder, and they had three studios there. Fleetwood Mac was in one of them doing Tusk, and the guys from Kansas were mixing their first album, Point of No.
Oh my
And they
God.
were really
Wow.
cool. They used to invite me into their session all the time, and I got to hear all this. They were great guys. We never saw the Fleetwood Mac people. They had armed guards there and everything. And that was the first album.
Kansas people were cool though. Hey.
Yeah. But yeah, we did that. So anyway, went out there and did that. And then Steve wanted to add Friedman, and they had all kind of strings and horns on it. And I was not up with that. And we even had better songs, but it was just getting to the point. The funny thing was, though, we had the regional hit with it, and it came out in middle of October, and it ended up selling 54,000 albums right out of the gate because it was distributed.
Wow.
And everything. And then Columbia went out of business. And not Columbia, Playboy.
Yeah. I
Business.
can't think of any other records they probably did, but I don't.
They had Mickey Gilley and who else did they have?
So when they went out of business, do you think that's what killed it?
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like the Utopia album, you know, the Network album, which is a great Utopia album.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as, Utopia put that out, Network went out of business.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And Utopia had a lot of those problems, like POV and Oblivion. They were on Passport. They put out records on sign these contracts and do these records for these other, and then they go out of business. And it kind of sinks the, I'm totally get it. Cheap Trick. The Red Ant label.
Red Ant, yeah.
That's exactly like your situation, because as soon as that came out, Red Ant went under.
Yeah, that's what happened. So I mean, some of the recordings are pretty good, and I could see where it would be commercial. It got a lot of airplay and everything.
You think it needs like remixed?
Oh yeah, I'd love to remix it. Jim and I have always thought that too. If we would remix it, I could. And there were one or two songs.
Who has the tape? Do you know where the tapes are?
Tony owns it. That has CBS. Yeah,
but it's not like they still. They have them though.
Oh yeah, they definitely have them. Because even somebody asked Steve Friedman about it. He goes, he didn't own any of that as a producer, but Sony has them. He said that's the last I heard of it. I mean, I wouldn't go out of my way to do it. I have so many other projects going on with all this other stuff. So
it'd be cool though someday for it to come out. Maybe Cherry Red can pull some strings.
Yeah, they might. Yeah, that'd be cool. But I would love to remix it because it sounded like way better and take a lot of the horns and strings out and stuff.
Get rid of that stuff. Bring it back to its pure essence.
Yeah, exactly.
Pure blue ash essence. DC, do you have that record? Do you have it?
I do not. I certainly know of it. And this is why a lot of these labels that like a Not Lame, it's sad that we no longer have that label, because they would be the perfect champions for this kind of a project.
Oh,
I hope it comes out.
Let's see what
maybe someday.
Yeah, it should. I nothing surprises me anymore. I'm trying to find one of them here. I have a box of records. Maybe it's not in here. But anyway,
I hope you have one.
Yeah, I'm sure. I got one from Venezuela too. It's in Spanish, written and everything. A fan of mine from Spain sent it to me. I never even knew it was out in Venezuela.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's slightly cover and everything. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's astounding the reach that your music, when you think of it in a global scale like that, that is astounding.
Yeah,
you got fans worldwide.
And you never know who's listening to it or who would be your fans. I would hear all this stuff and people would come up to it. It was just crazy,
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've turned a lot of people onto this Blue Ash album. I will say that.
You guys know who Dirk Benedict is?
The actor? Sure do.
Big Blue Ash fan.
Oh, how cool. How cool.
Like that from the A-Team, and what was the other one?
I remember him from the A-Team for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Pretty funny stuff.
That's really cool. Yeah. You never know among the masses who people that have some fame and presence in popular culture. They're digging your stuff. You know what I mean? That's
he's a fan too. Even guys like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, what's always made them special to me, they were always fanboys too. There's a great story about Paul McCartney when Billy Joel met Paul McCartney, and he's going on and rambling, and finally Billy Joel, he goes, "I'm sorry, Paul." He goes, "I know I'm making a fool of myself. I'm just rambling on and everything." He goes, "But I just can't help myself." And Paul goes, "Don't worry, Billy." He goes, "I did the same thing with Phil Everly."
There you go. And as Grant and I always,
Carl Perkins probably, and
Yeah,
Chuck Berry when he talked.
Grant and I always talk about this, in that the people that create this music and the people that are hardcore fans, we're a rare breed. Most people don't have the kind of passion for music like we do.
I know.
And you just can't go to your next door neighbor, Ed, and just start talking about the nuts and bolts and the inside baseball aspects of music. And how about that bass line on that one tune and everything? That's not in their wheelhouse at all. I was impressed that you met Paul Revere and the Raiders bassist, Wolf.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Bang?
Nice
Bang?
Bang.
You want to listen to a really cool bass line? Too much talk. How about that bass line right there, folks?
Yeah. Oh, I love the Raiders stuff. It was funny because Kim Fowley was having a party, producer out in LA, and he was introducing his new band, the Orchids. They were going to be the ones after the Runaways, the all-girl band, you know. And he had the Doors were there, and they're all kind of famous people. Michael DeBar's, all these famous people were there. Rick Ocasek and everything. Anyways, Kim grabs me and Steve. He goes, "Come on, guys." He goes, "I have someone I want you guys to meet." So he takes us over. He goes, "Guys," he goes, "this is Fang." And we were dumbfounded because
Fang was at the party.
Yeah, Fang.
Oh my God.
So we're dumbfounded, you know, because we'd met all kind of famous people, but the Raiders, it was like, I remember later on at the party, I nudged them. I said, "How fucking cool is this?" I says, "We're at a party hanging out with all these famous people, hanging out with the Raiders, and they're fucking paying us for it." You know,
Don't get no better than that.
Yeah, good life. So we were just howling about it. And Stiv always loved Fang because he would use that Vox guitar and he had Stiv on the back of it. Like Fang always had it with tape written on there, you know?
Yep.
The back of that Vox bass.
Yeah. What do you have? You had a Phantom, I think.
Yeah.
Vox Phantom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of them, and they had those Vox AC30s, and there's like pictures of them standing on top of them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Vox Super Beetle's pretty high up there. I don't think I'd want to go up on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You ever have a Super Beetle, Frank?
Yes, I did. And I liked it. I when I was in Mother Goose Band, I used it for bass. I was the bass player.
Yeah, because it has a bass channel on it.
And the only place you could ever get that bass guitar sound of "Call Me Lightning," the thing is Tone X on the
No.
Beetle.
There you go.
Look this up, but you probably recognize this chrome stand.
Yeah, there we go.
It's a Vox Viscount.
Yeah.
1966 Vox Viscount.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I like Vox for bass. The only thing I didn't like about the Super Beatles, though, is they would break down all the time. They weren't making, and it was solid state too. It was not. You know what I mean? It wasn't a great amp for like guitar. You know, like an AC30 would be. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, right. I had an AC30 at a 1985 25th anniversary edition. I think it was 85.
Do you guys know what you want to get? Let's get into some wonky stuff. Do you want to know why tube amp sounds?
Well, I don't want to take too much of your time.
No.
If you're good,
Yeah.
I could shoot the shit on it. I'm just saying, I don't want to.
Good. We're
I don't
here.
want to abuse you or anything.
You know why tube amps are so popular still to this day, and people use them? The reason?
Let's hear it.
Well,
They automatically,
I know what we used
every
to say.
note, tube amps distort in harmony.
Oh.
Solid state.
Okay.
If you hit a tube amp and you hit it like a G note, you'll get overtones in the distortion of B's and D's.
Cool.
That's why it sounds so smooth for a lead guitar player. That's why all guitar players, almost everyone, wants tube amps still to this day.
But I will go on record to say some of the best guitar sounds I've ever heard were done on solid state out.
Sure, you You can get
Beatles Revolver, those were all solid state Vox amps.
Yep.
And the guitars on Revolver, what were those? Those were
casinos.
No. They were playing casinos, but through these Vox solid state amps.
Yeah.
The newest, whatever the newest Vox was, they got all that stuff free.
They were using Super Beatles then.
Yeah, but no, in 67 they were using the solid state ones, but not the American ones. The
Okay.
British.
Yeah.
But Revolver, Pepper, those are all solid state amps for the most part.
But see, almost all their guitar sounds on there, they're just really doing all kinds of things with VCOs and compressors.
Sure.
So that wouldn't have, for the kind of stuff they were doing then, it made perfect sense to do that, because you could get the clean tones, then you could dirty them up with that or make them sound bigger, and they were doing a lot of stuff with the various speed oscillator and then changing the speeds on it and everything. Like the guitars, even on Rain, which they would have been done in those sessions, they brought those down like a key, brought the whole track down a key. They would play it real fast and then fuck around with that VCO, various speed oscillator.
Mm-hmm. But it's so brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't know where you rank the Beatles. The Beatles are the Beatles are always my number one. Always.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I love the Kinks and I love the Stones and I love the Who, but the Beatles are a notch above it.
Yeah. Because when I listen to at least the Blue Ash stuff, it seems more Who related than Beatle related to me.
Yeah, we were all over. We were just doing whatever we felt like doing.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. What were you going to tell us? You were going to bring up something wild or something.
Oh, no, that was just it about that
was it. Okay.
With the distortion in tubes.
But I think that there's guys on YouTube that are playing those old, God, I can't remember what 761. I forget what Vox they are, but man, they do sound great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's something unique about it, because they don't sound like a Marshall. They don't sound like, they really don't sound like anything else.
When I played guitar in Mother Goose, after I was played bass in the 68 and 69, I still used the Vox Super Beetle, but I used an Epiphone Sharon guitar, and that
had the mini humbuckers.
Yes, and that was Sunburst one with the mini humbuckers, and that was a great guitar, especially through a Vox Super Beetle, because you could get the great clear tones and everything. I didn't mind using it for that, because I was never a lead guitar player. So I would, I used Standell amps too, which solid state, and they were very good.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, hey, the Knack, right? I know you know the Knack. Some of the best. Think about Doug Feiger. This is so geeky, but Frank will know what I'm talking about. The Knack's first album, Get to Knack. The rhythm guitar sound that Doug Feiger gets with that Strat going through the Super Beetle, the way it rings out, it sounds, maybe it was great for rhythm guitar, but I think that's like one of my favorite Strat sounds is his rhythm parts through that Super Beetle.
Yeah.
Get the Knack.
Yeah.
It just rings out.
Yeah. I liked using it, like I said, for rhythm. I also had a Telecaster, the 67 Telecaster with maple neck that I used for rhythm guitar too. I had two guitars back then. So
I had a 68. Sorry, DC. I had a 68 Telecaster. You remember the 68 Telecasters where they had the one Fender that came out with the Fender Bigsby on it?
Yes.
I had one of those. Like an idiot. In 1983, I traded it for a Fender Lead 3.
Well, that's what we were always trading guitars.
I know, but now that I'm kicking myself, Frank.
Yeah.
Still, it was blonde. It was beautiful.
I just saw that 67. It was blue metallic with the maple neck on internet, and it goes for $20,000 now.
Yeah, but back then, trading the 68 Telecaster, then no one thought twice.
Let's see, a Telecaster was, I think, $135 or $145 was like 1966ers, and a Strat was like, I don't know, $195. A Mustang was like $110. Yeah.
when I was like 13, so like 79, 80,
Mhm.
somewhere around in there. We had a guitar store where I grew up. And I said, do you have any like old I used to hang out there,
Mhm.
and they had a Fender Jaguar, 65 Fender Jaguar that no one wanted.
Yeah.
No one wanted it.
But
It sat in the case. I bought it for $150.
yeah, those people didn't want the Jazz Masters or the Jaguars. They didn't use them. Maybe a soul band or two did, but that was about it.
I wish I kept that too, but it was
Yeah.
a 65. It still had it had an F plate, so it was a it wasn't an L. But
Mhm.
I mean, you know what I mean.
When I toured with Ghetto Blasters,
Yeah.
19, and before that, when I toured with a room full of strangers, I would get up and do a mini set with them, and they had a couple of Jaguars, and they let me use those, and that was a lot of fun playing those. They were good rhythm guitar. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? One of the best guitar sounds, I will say this, and I think Rick Ocasek, the rip like in off the first Cars album.
Needed.
Oh, Jesus. You know what I mean? What's the big song off the first Cars album? Just what I needed, right?
Yeah.
That chunky chunka
Yeah.
sound, that's a Fender Jazzmaster.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Because he used to play that Jazzmaster all the time. You put the pickups in between, both pickups on a Jazzmaster, and slap some flat wound strings on it. It's one of my favorite guitar sounds I love those Jazzmaster pickups. God, that's a good sounding guitar.
I still have a Telecaster, and I still have what I use when I do my acoustic shows, when I do book signings and all that. I'll go in just by myself and do a afternoon in the record store or a bookstore. I use the Tim Armstrong 12-string. I love that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love it. It never goes out of tune. It sounds fantastic in any system. It sounds fantastic if I even go into a record store and I just go old school and no microphones, no stage, no light, no sound check, no nothing. Just get up and play. And I love doing that with the Tim Armstrong.
So how often are you going out playing gigs now?
I haven't been out since 2022. I did a lot of stuff with the book from 2015 till COVID. Then after COVID, I got really sick during COVID. I've had COVID a couple times and had some help.
There's the book.
Yeah.
What about Deadbeat Poets?
Yeah, Deadbeat Poets, we're not doing much anymore, but we had 8 albums out, We have another one in the can, but yep, there you go.
There's one of them. I got the other. I bought like 3 of them off the site.
Is that the album or is that the CD?
No, this is a CD.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm just doing CDs anymore because
Yeah.
I have a lot of records, but my whole thing is, Frank, buy low, and vinyl's so expensive.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it is.
I'm just buying CDs. So, but yes, I did get like 3 of them.
Cool. Oh, thank you.
I love great stuff.
Yes, it was a good band, good people. Yeah.
So, are you guys broken up?
No, not
you're
really,
just on hiatus, or?
Yeah, kind of hiatus. Pete Revere, who owned the studio too, Amprion, where we recorded everything. They sold the building out from under him, so he's trying to get a new place together. He's doing some work out of his home now and everything. But he had all his stuff stored there and all that great equipment. And had to leave like end of last summer. So hopefully,
fantastic. Do you know this, DC? Have you heard any? Okay.
I know that Frank was a part of that band, but I don't have any of those CDs.
Yeah, you got to check it out.
I will do that. I got a lot of checking up to do.
I know. We're spending a lot of money here tonight.
a lot of good songs on that album. Johnny Sincere, Dark Haired Girl in Piccadilly Circus that I write about in my book. There's some good stuff on there.
Yeah, that's my favorite track.
Yeah.
On that one.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's cool.
Oh, your stuff's phenomenal.
No, thanks.
Yeah, that moment at Piccadilly Circus, that was really something, wasn't it?
Yeah, really. I just happen to luck into these things all the time.
What an incredible life, man. You've had some real interesting worldly experiences.
I've had fun with it,
Jiminy Christmas.
I wish it could have ended somewhat different and been more famous or richer, but I have no regrets over it. I had a lot of fun doing it. I met some phenomenal people, and got kudos from a lot of people. What more can you ask for? You know?
Well, one of the true tests is like we mentioned Blue Ash, and we also mentioned Big Star.
Yeah.
Both of your bands, all these years later, you may not have sold as many albums as some other contemporaries, but both of those bands are held in the highest regard.
Oh, yeah.
Many years later.
Yeah.
You can't ask for more than that as a pro musician, to have your music resonate through the years like that.
It's well worth it, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we call this power pop now, but it wasn't considered that. It was just.
No, it was just like a. They say that Pete Townsend coined the term, but I think Greg Shaw was the one that really brought it into popularity from Bomp Records, because he used to use it all the time and it was his, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you look at the Who, Kids Are All Right, the song Kids Are All Right, that is pure power pop.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, that whole first album, you know, the My Generation album.
Frank, we have a cohort here in the warehouse. I don't know if you know who Steve Schnee is. He draws very tight categorical positionings for power pop and what he calls Pat's power pop adjacent.
Yeah.
That's very definitive categories he puts groups in.
I'm not sure where he would put this. I have no idea. Because, you know, you have a lot of bands.
Yeah.
Not every song is power pop. You might call the Knack power pop, but there's not all the songs are power pop.
No, or Badfinger either, you know.
Or Badfinger either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No matter what, that's power pop.
Yeah, it's more of a designation of song than it is a band. You know what I mean? Because I think most bands dip their feet in the water in a lot of different genres, really.
Oh, definitely, yeah. For sure.
All right. Well, DC, got anything else? We've already went an hour and a half.
Yeah, I've gone through all my notes. I was going to mention a few other things, but why don't we save some stuff for when Frank comes back with us and we talk about the upcoming release later on this summer.
Jim Kendzor with me too. He's a character.
Oh, we'd love it.
Yeah.
We'd love it.
Jim's welcome, of course.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, when Grant did the feature on Blue Ash, and then you left a comment there. He texts me, he goes, think I should try and get Frank on the show? I said, do it.
Well, when you left a comment, I was all giddy like a schoolgirl.
I love doing this tonight because it was funny talking about all the old gear and everything too. So it was.
Well, I hope we talked about stuff normally you don't get to talk about.
Yeah, that's what it was nice. That's why I said I just love to ramble. We'll just talk and talk. You can cut anything you want out of it, or
no, I think it's all good. I don't care. I love it.
Yeah, no one's going to bring up Boots Bell or Barney Bean in any other interview you're going to do.
Barney Bean. I'll promote Bader's a little bit. Here's the new one. Pop Goes the Weasel out of Spain.
Okay.
Stuff I did with him. A lot of unreleased.
So that just came out, or what?
Just came out. Yep. Available everywhere. It was out for our record store day.
Okay.
Yeah. And
did that get a CD release? Please tell me it did.
I don't think so.
Oh.
One was from Disconnected they did the year before.
I'm going to look it up on Discogs. Let's see.
Plus some nightclubbing, Max's Kansas City one.
I've seen that. There's a documentary of that, right? Yeah,
this is the documentary. Debbie Poets are in there with Sunglass City. They play it the whole time. Brian Jones, Rolling Stone, Danny Garcia's movie. Debbie Poets in with Riding the Dog. It plays the whole time when they're the Pretty Things are telling the stories about Brian Jones and fighting with him and stuff. So it's pretty funny. So it's during the whole there. And this is Stive's documentary. So if you can find that.
Actually, I think I watched part of that.
Pretty cool. They talk about him going in Eddie Best is on there talking about Steve, Mother Goose playing at their high school. And I helped them get all kind of really rare footage, the Mother Goose things I'm an associate producer on the movie too. So I got some really, really choice old things that no one's ever seen. The Mother Goose.
I definitely got to check that movie out because it's just in my brain in kind of a foggy fashion. I'd like to see some of that Mother Goose.
Pop Goes the Weasel.
Yeah, Pop Goes the Weasel. Yep. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay.
And there's about some.
And there you are. I see you.
Yeah. Yep.
And that came out on Bomb. Okay.
Yeah.
But,
Bomb licensed it to Munster Records of Spain, and they put it out for Record Store Day.
but you're all over you're on the album.
Yeah, I'm on all that stuff.
You're on Disconnected.
Yep.
See, I need to get that.
Yeah, Disconnect is a good album. That's probably one of the most popular things I've ever been on. That I get email or notes from that every single day for the last 45 years. Yeah, every single day somebody's made that, or we'll put it up, or covers.
I'm looking to see I don't know if it's in print still though.
Disconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Is
find
it
all over the place. Yeah.
I'm just looking at used copies, but I'll be bad. I'll buy a new copy if I can. Wow, it came out on Vivid Sound Corp in Japan.
Yeah.
In 2004. There's been a lot of different reissues of it.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yeah, it's been out all over the world. It's still in print everywhere. Yeah, it's been
Right. I need to pick it up. What else before we let you go, Frank? What else do I need? What else do I need?
Probably get the yellow blue ash one though. That's the Hearts and Arrows. That's a really, really good album.
Now, I know everybody's watching this. I've played Blue Ash on the channel. Please go out, get Frank's books, give Frank some love, because there's a lot of people that dig your stuff, and go check out the Stiv Bader stuff. I'm going to go spend some money. But, there it is. Give him some love.
My wife just laughed when you said that.
What?
You're going to go spend some money.
I am. Frank, I've got it bad.
Come on and say hi. She won't go on the camera.
You should come on the camera.
Come on, Lisa. They're demanding you come on now.
Come on and say hello, just real quick.
Bringing off the hook to see.
No, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like guitars or CDs or records.
Frank,
you said you were buying a lot of records and you got to slow down.
Yeah. Frank, we're going to have our wives join us on one of these shows, because being married to someone that's obsessed about music the way we are, whether you're a consumer or you're a player or whatever, takes a special woman to go along for the ride.
Oh yeah, especially if you're in a band too.
Oh,
yeah.
Yep.
So I see it. Heart. There it is. Okay, so the Hearts and Arrows. I know. I have to make sure I'm getting the right thing. Hearts and Arrows is a 2 LP comp with the 7-inch EP that you mentioned, right? Yeah. Came out on You Are the Cosmos. Now there's You Are the Cosmos in 2016 brought out 15 number ones in a perfect world. Is that the same record?
Yeah, that's another good one to get from Blue Ash. That's they did that when we toured over there with that. And toured Spain in 2016. They made that CD especially up for the tour.
Okay.
But yeah, there's good stuff on that, and that's a good price. Get Hip has that too.
So I'm looking at it compared. There's a lot of this. Okay. No.
They're all different recordings.
Okay, they are.
Some of the songs are the same, but they're different recordings. Yeah.
All right. Damn it. God darn it. All right. I'm sold. Well, anyway, I don't want to take up too much because I could just talk guitars and music all night.
Well,
and I hope you enjoyed it. We'd love to have you back when this other comp comes out.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's definitely.
I know where you are, so I can.
Yeah.
But I will let you know when this airs, so you can share it. And
my 12-string Tim Armstrong, and Jim and I'll sing some songs too.
That'd be great. Yeah, we'd love it. Love it.
God, I'll break out the Vox Viscount too.
There you go.
And we can really have a good I wouldn't do that to you, Frank.
No, that's okay. I don't care.
You're a much better musician than I could ever be.
You guys like blues? Old blues guys stories?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd love to hear an old blues guy's story.
I'll tell you the story. I'm a big Blind Lemon Jefferson fan.
Okay.
And I went down to, when we played at the South by Southwest, I made sure we drove down there. We went to Wortham, Texas, and visited his grave and met people that knew him and everything down in Wortham, Texas, and everything. So pretty funny stuff. But He was used to play all the old blues places and played on corners in Dallas and everything in the 1920s, 26 before he got discovered, and went on Paramount Records in Chicago. Anyway, he would, go in and play on the corners, and he would make $150 a night in the Depression or in the 19.
Yeah, wow.
Anyway, but he would also hire out to play at like the Southern Conference of Baptist Churches picnic in the Piney Woods area of Texas. And one day he's playing there, and he wouldn't do the blues songs because they wouldn't stand for Piney Woods money like that with the Baptists. And he's playing on the stage, and he would do, like, See That My Grave Is Kept Clean, and his other standards of the religious ones. And all of a sudden he hears this guy starts to get on stage and playing guitar with us. That's when I'm segueing into this. And he goes, "What the hell's wrong with you, man?" He goes, "You can't do that. You can't come on the stage with me. You don't know what the hell you're doing." And the guy goes, "I'm sorry, mister," with this squeaky voice. He realized he's just a little kid, but he's blind. He couldn't see him. I'm sorry. He goes, "Come here." He goes, "I'll show you some stuff." So he showed him some riffs and everything like this and playing. And it was Lightning Hawkins was the little kid.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
my God.
How cool is that?
How cool
That's
is
a great
how
tale.
cool
That's a
is
great
that?
tale.
Yeah,
That's a great tale.
Yeah. Pretty funny stuff.
All right. Well, based on that, we'll wrap this dog up.
There you go.
All
Let's
right.
wrap it up with a nice story there.
I
And he
want to
got
thank
so
Frank
many
for coming
matches,
on.
but you got a long way to go. He wrote Matchbox, which I consider the first rock and roll record. In 1925, he wrote that song.
He wrote that in 1925.
1925 with the same,
I didn't
rock
know that.
roll. Da 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 da.
Mhm.
I always considered that the first rock and roll song. And then Carl Perkins put his name on it, but Blind Lemon Jefferson wrote the song. But
And
this
then
guy,
you had the Beatles version.
yeah, yep. And then got the Beatles doing it. It's funny because in the Ruddles,
The Ruddles.
go down to Louisiana, remember, to find out how the Ruddles started. They have the old black blues guy, and his name is Blind Lemon Pie.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, that was a great parody.
Ruddles,
Blind
everything
Lemon
they
Pie.
know. They learned everything from me. But that's
classic.
where it all started, was Blind Lemon Jefferson. So I got to meet a guy that Lemon used to work on their family's estate and farm and everything. It was great. In my second book, you'll like it if you read that. So I tell the story about it. So
I'll be delving into your second book tomorrow. I just finished the first one, so I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, you'll like. Yeah, let me know when this is up. I'll put it up all over the place. I have all kind of.
Sweet. I might split it up in two since we might do. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll put it up as one. I don't know. I might split it and do a two-parter.
Cool.
I don't know. We'll see.
Well, thank you guys. It was very entertaining.
Frank, it was fun. We will have you
Yeah.
back when the comp comes out. I will.
good.
I'll be out spending money tonight. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Frank. It was a real honor and a real
Thank you.
privilege and pleasure.
Take care.
All right, everybody. We'll see you.
We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.